Hi everyone, it's Michelle. Welcome back. So today I thought I would talk about books with you guys. I've read quite a few books since the last time that I talked about books. So I'm going to talk about almost all of them quickly because I don't want this to be too long. And most of you know, if you watch these videos, I don't hang on to my books. So most of the books that I read I don't have here to show you. I just printed a little synopsis to remind me so I can talk about them. Or I listened to them on audio. And when I listen on audio, you can use Audible. That is a great app, but I choose to use an app called Libro.fm because that way I can support my local independent bookseller as well. So if you like to listen to books and you want to support your local independent, you can listen to them through Libro.fm, and then every time you buy a book to listen to, your independent bookshop gets a percentage instead of it going to the big guy at audible.com. I'm not affiliated with either one of them, but that's my little spiel for supporting the little guy. I also shop independent only. I don't typically buy books at Amazon or Barnes & Noble or anything like that. But if that's all you got near you, that's all you got near you. Okay, so let's talk about the books I've read over the last, it's been about a month and a half, I think. So we're just going to jump in and get started, and I'm going to be all over the place because they're not in any order. So one of them was called An Anonymous Girl, and this is by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen, I think she says her name. And this is by the ladies who wrote... what the heck was the name of the book they wrote? The Wife Between Us, which I also read and loved. So this is their new book. It is just out. I'm not sure what the actual, my cover looks like this. I got mine through Book of the Month. I also belong to Book of the Month because it introduces me to all kinds of new authors. So that's where I got mine, but you can buy it anywhere. Let's see. I'm going to give you a little spiel about what this is about. Do they give a spiel or is it the long? Okay. So basically, I'll just read it. How about that? Seeking women ages 18 to 32 to participate in a study on ethics and morality. Generous compensation and anonymity guaranteed. When Jessica Ferris signs up for a psychology study conducted by the mysterious Dr. Shields, she thinks all she'll have to do is answer a few questions, collect her money, and leave. Question number 1. Could you tell a lie without feeling guilt? But as the questions grow more and more intense and invasive, and the sessions become outings where Jess is told what to wear and how to act, she begins to feel as though Dr. Shields may know what she's thinking and what she's hiding. Question number 2. Have you ever deeply hurt someone you care about? As Jess's paranoia grows, it becomes clear that she can no longer trust what in her life is real and what is one of Dr. Shields' manipulative experiments. Caught in a web of deceit and jealousy, Jess quickly learns that some obsessions can be deadly. Question number 3. Should a punishment always fit the crime? So, again, this is from the authors of The Wife Between Us. This is a great book. So basically, Jess, who is a makeup artist, I love that as well, she gets herself into this study that this doctor is conducting, and it's about morality, and it gets more interesting and interesting. She's asked to do other things that test morals and that kind of thing, and then you try to figure out what the doctor is trying to do, why she's doing it, that kind of thing. The doctor is a woman. Dr. Shields is a woman. I don't think that's a giveaway at all. So I thought this is a great book if you love a good mystery type thriller book, or if you liked The Wife Between Us. You will very much enjoy that. I read a very wide range of interesting books this time. Okay, I highly recommend An Anonymous Girl. I would totally buy that and read that again. The next book, or another book that I read this month, is an old book, a classic called The Good Earth by Pearl S. Buck. Many of you might have read this in college or high school or whatever. Once a year, my book club chooses a classic, and this was the one for this year. I loved the book. If you haven't read The Good Earth, I'm just going to give you a little synopsis about it. So it was written in the early 30s, like 1931, 32, I think is, it was a bestseller but back then. It won the Pulitzer Prize. So it was a very famous classic, and I really enjoyed reading it again. I do think I read it when I was in college as well. Let's see where I want to jump in. Okay, so the story is about a Chinese family in the early 19th century, I believe it was, or the 20th century. I think it was the early 1900s, was it? Hold on. This is why not having the book isn't good. Nope, that's not it. So the story begins with on the wedding day of one of the Chinese men, and then it follows sort of the rise and fall of his fortunes and his family. Again, it is early, I think early 1900s, but it might have been early 1800s. But you know, it's the story of a Chinese family, a couple of generations, you know, of that family, and kind of their life and how things change between as the generations change. So, you know, Wang Long, he's the main character. He marries this woman. They are from like a farm town outside of the city, and he marries a woman who is a slave at a big house because his family doesn't have money, and this is the best he can do. And it's about their relationship, and as they have children, their relationship, and it shows sort of the difference in that culture with the parents as well. So his Wang Long's father is still alive and lives in the home with them, and you know, when you have elders in your home, they come first, and then sort of the children come next, and everybody else comes after that. You know, and they go through drought and famine and war, and it's sort of the whole thing around that family. And it is an amazing read, I thought. I feel much different about it than I did when I read it, you know, back in my early 20s. Now that I'm in my 50s, I thought it was a great book and highly recommend it. Again, it's The Good Earth by Pearl S. Buck. I'm sure you can find it anywhere because it's a classic. It's been around forever. It's, you know, award-winning, won the Pulitzer Prize. There was a movie made about it as well. I haven't seen the movie. The movie was made in the early 30s, late 30s maybe. I'm just scanning this. And Pearl Buck, for those of you who don't know, she lived in China for a long, long time. So, you know, she's very familiar with the culture and how things worked over there. And she kind of was back and forth between China and the U.S. for a long time. So I highly recommend The Good Earth by Pearl S. Buck if you have not read it. Or if you read it in school, you might want to read it again because it was good. Okay, the next book I read, I have mixed feelings about, but let's talk about it. It's called The Red Clocks. The cover looks like this. It's red. My cover did anyway. So, and it is a newer book. So I'm going to read the little spiel and then tell you what I thought about it. In this ferociously imaginative novel, abortion is once again illegal in America. In vitro fertilization is banned, and the Personhood Amendment grants rights of life, liberty, and property to every embryo. In a small town in Oregon, 5 very different women navigate the new barriers alongside age-old questions surrounding motherhood, identity, and freedom. Roe is a high school teacher trying to have a baby on her own, but again, in vitro is a no-no, while also writing a biography of a female polar explorer. Susan is a frustrated mother of 2 trapped in a crumbling marriage. Maddie is an adopted daughter of parents and also one of Roe's students who finds herself pregnant with nowhere to turn. And Jen is a gifted forest-dwelling herbalist or mender who brings all their fates together when she's arrested and put on trial in a sort of modern-day witch hunt, if you will. So it says, Red Clocks is at once a riveting drama whose mysteries unfold with energy and a shattering novel of ideas in the vein of Margaret Atwood, love Margaret Atwood, Lenny Zumas, who is the author fearlessly explores the contours of the female experience, evoking the Handmaid's Tale for the new millennium. So if you guys are watching The Handmaid's Tale or have read The Handmaid's Tale and are enjoying that, you might really enjoy this. This is a story of resilience, transformation, and hope in tumultuous, even frightening times. So a lot of people have talked about this book being, very sort of timely because, what's going on in politics today. And I'm not going to get into any of that because I do not talk politics. But it's a great book. So it's illegal to have an abortion in the U.S. In vitro fertilization is also banned. Every embryo is considered a person. So there's so many laws around that. Canada has refused to let people in to have abortions. If you're caught trying to go over there and have abortion, you get arrested and go to jail. If you get caught trying to have an abortion, you're going to go to prison, and all of those things. And then these 5 women whose lives kind of intersect have different things going on in their life where these new laws affect them. And it was a great story. I loved the character of Jin, she's basically an herbalist who lives in the forest. And people call her the mender because they go to her when, they have medical needs and they don't want to see a doctor or whatever. And these other women go to her, because she has also been known to help with ending a pregnancy. And that's kind of what gets her arrested. And it's sort of what happens to her and them and how all the decisions get made around that. So I thought it was a great book. It's a great, there's a little mystery there. It's a great story about women and, how we feel about our bodies and our choices around our bodies and who gets to make those decisions and that kind of thing. So I really liked it. I highly recommend that. There's a lot of talk when I try not to read the reviews until after I've read a book because I don't like to be influenced by reviews because everybody feels differently about books. There's a lot of interesting reviews about this book specifically. A lot of people hated it. A lot of people loved it. I don't know. I will say the whole thing, the red clocks is sort of like the reason for the name. The red clock is your cycle. Your red clock is a female cycle. That's why it's called Red Clocks. So read that if you're into that kind of thing. I also read a book called The Proposal by Jasmine Guillory, I think her name is. I'm not even going to read you the spiel on this. It's chick lit. I don't have any problem with chick lit, but it wasn't even good chick lit. So it's called The Proposal because a woman is at a baseball game. Her boyfriend proposes to her on the monitor in front of 45,000 people. She hasn't been dating him very long. She's shocked by the proposal and she says no in front of 45,000 people, and it's about how her life changes based on what people think of her now because of what they saw on TV. It wasn't good. Don't bother. That's my take on it. I think it's meant to be funny and meaningful and all of that. It was predictable and I didn't like the female characters in it. I thought they were very, there's her friends come out in support of her and that kind of thing, but I didn't like it. That's all I'm going to say about that. I also read My Life to Live, which is a book about Agnes Nixon. And one of you guys or one of my Instagram supporters was talking about this book to me after I read something else, and she thought I would like it. So I read it, and it was great. So it's basically the biography of Agnes Nixon, who is the woman who wrote All My Children and One Life to Live for 40-some years. I think she is deceased now, but it is her biography. And back when she became a writer of these soap operas, it was very, very much a man's world, and she sort of broke through that and became sort of the queen of the soap opera. And I, as someone who watched All My Children and One Life to Live and also General Hospital, which she did not write, loved them, and so I loved reading her biography. So if you loved those soap operas and you like reading biographies, read My Life to Live by which is about Agnes Nixon. I don't think it was written. Was it written by her? Oh, I think it might have been written by her. Yeah, so she wrote it. Agnes Nixon wrote it. That's right, she did write it because she talks in the book about I think this book was one of the last things she wrote before her passing. So love it. My Life to Live by Agnes Nixon. And if you read or you watched those soap operas, you have to read about her, how she became who she was, and her life in writing and that kind of thing, which was very different for women back in the day. Okay, lastly, I'm going to talk about another book, and I think I mentioned this book briefly, but it's called Books for Living by Will Schwalbe. So I talked either in my last video or another video about a book I read called The End of Your Life Book Club, also written by Will Schwalbe. And basically it was the story of him and his mom at the end of her life and the books they read and the kind of book club they had between the two of them. He also wrote Books for Living after that, which I like it. I liked it. It took me a long time to read it. It was hard to get through. What I like about these books, here, I'm going to show you a picture of the cover. This is what it looks like, Books for Living by Will Schwalbe. And I will read you a little spiel about it. For Will Schwalbe, reading is a way to entertain himself, but also to make sense of the world and to find the answers to life's questions, big and small. In each chapter of this book, he discusses a particular book and how it relates to concerns we all share. The books that he talks about span centuries and genres, from Stuart Little to The Girl on the Train, David Copperfield. He talks about like Rebecca, so old classics and that kind of thing. Throughout the book, Schwalbe tells stories of his life and focuses on the way certain books can help us honor those we've loved and lost, and also figure out how to live each day more fully. And I would say that's probably true. I think it's a book best read maybe chapter by chapter. You know, just pick up the book and read one chapter about a specific book he's talking about. And, you know, he talks about how it influenced him or how it helped someone, and you can decide whether that's great for you or not great for you. It's a great way to introduce yourself to books maybe you haven't read, or authors you haven't read, or subjects you haven't read, because he talks a lot about that. And because he was in publishing for so long, he's very good at interweaving books and talking about, if you liked this author, you should read that author, and that kind of thing. I think reading a book like that also helps you over time get more out of the books that you do read, or the genres that you decide to read. And I also love that when he talks about a book, he talks about the author, and I love learning more about authors. A lot of people pick up a book and read it without any sort of thought about the author most of the time. I mean, sometimes when it's a biography, how can you not? But it's always interesting to me to learn about authors. And one of the things we do in our book club, before we start talking about a book, the person who leads our book club always talks about the author, other things they've written, things about their life, that kind of thing, which is always very interesting to me because I like to know about people. So I loved that as well. So those, I feel like I'm missing one, but those are the books that I read. I highly recommend An Anonymous Girl if you love mysteries. If you're a biography person, read Agnes Nixon, My Life to Live. The Red Clocks if you're a lover of Margaret Atwood or you love The Handmaid's Tale. I know it's a little mini-series kind of thing. Read that. Leni Zumas, L-E-N-I Zumas is her name. I assume that's a her. Skip The Proposal because it wasn't worth my time. And I loved The Good Earth, so if you're looking to reread a classic, go back and read The Good Earth by Pearl S. Buck. If you like that sort of family saga that stretches over time. The other thing I will say that The Good Earth does is it'll make you appreciate all the things we have in our lives today, because these people really went through some hard times just to survive. So that is it for books today. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books and what you think about them. Also, if you have some books that you've read recently that you love, tell us about them as well. Please try to avoid spoilers because a lot of people read the comments and I don't like to spoil books for anybody who might be in the process of reading them. That is it for today. I hope everybody's having a fantastic day and I will be back soon.